Hello everyone, my name is Phil and welcome to PhilDoes3D. I'm a multimedia and 3D artist and I stream on Twitch weekdays from 5 p.m. Pacific time in the US, 11 a.m. in Australia and 12 a.m. in the UK. Let's load up the model we were working on yesterday, the garden terrace, and we'll continue doing a bit more work on it. We were texturing the front border yesterday, and I think I just want to add a bit more dirt to that texture that we created, make it look a little bit dirtier. I think it might look a bit too clean. We'll have a look once it loads up into 3D Studio Max. Okay, this wall here is what we were working on yesterday in Mari. We might continue doing just a little bit more texturing work on this, I think. So let's just jump quickly into Mari and find the wall that we were working on. I think, where is it? I think it was this one here, lower stair border. I just want to add a few watermarks to the outside of that wall, just to give it a bit more interest. So we're in flat shaded mode. Let's throw on a new layer and pull in a dirt texture. Let's see. No, not that one. Let me move this up so I can get it. No, not that one. We might start with the very bottom border, I think, and we'll work our way up. This one might work. Now again, with this one, I'm more concerned with the dark part of the texture and less concerned with the white. So let's just zoom in on our model a bit. I'll angle it around. Again, I'm angling it away from me so that I don't accidentally paint on a part of the model I don't want to. And I'm also going to turn on masking just to be on the safe side. And that just prevents me from painting on areas that I don't want to. So again, I'm just going to zoom in a bit. Make sure I'm facing the model. In fact, I'm going to paint this with it angled toward me. Now that I have masking turned on, I'm less worried about painting on this section here. So I'm actually going to zoom in a bit. Now I'm working on, as I said, on a new layer, so anything we do, if we don't like it, we can easily remove it. Press the Alt key to take that down. I'm just moving the model as I paint along, so I'm looking directly at the model and not painting side on, so I don't get any texture stretching. And again, we're mainly concerned with the black part of the texture at the moment. We're not going to be really working with the white part of the texture at all once we change the layer style. If you remember, if you have any questions or anything you don't understand, feel free to pop into chat and I'll do my best to answer. If you want to just pop in and say hello, that's cool too. Or if you just want to lurk, then that's completely fine. All right, let's work on this end piece just here. Okay, bake that down by hitting the Alt key. Just going to move that texture down for a minute and change our layer styles here. I think darken is better than multiply. I'm just going to pull it back a bit like that. Alright, now let's move on to the center part of this texture now, I think. I'm going to create a new layer again. And what do we want for the middle? Just going to zoom out a bit. This might be interesting. Now, as far as the direction, I think I'm going to try and get this more or less directly facing the model. As opposed to having the model angled up, forward or backward, I'm going to look directly on. Again, I've got masking turned on. This one. I'm just going to change my brush style a little bit. I'm going to make it just a little larger. And I'm also going to pull back on the opacity and the flow just a little bit. Again, working in a new layer. I'm going to bake that down. I'm going to move the texture up slightly so it's just a little different from the previous piece that we painted in. I'm just being a little careful not to go above that center. I don't want to hit up here or down here. Again, I'm moving the model around because it's a curved piece of geometry. I'm just turning the model around as I paint, so I'm looking directly on the model as I'm painting it. Okay, we'll bake that down. And again, I'm just moving the texture slightly as I move the as I paint along the model, just so it looks a little different from the previous section. We don't want it to look like it's repeating too much. Bake that down. And this bit I'm going to move and only use part of the texture here. Okay, we'll bake that down. Let's zoom out a little bit. Move the texture down and change our layer styles. I think I want to go a little darker as opposed to a little lighter, so I might go to darken and just pull it back. So let me just change my mind on that, I think. I might go to multiply instead. That just helps to darken it up a bit more. And again, I'm going to throw a new layer style on. And again, I'm looking at more of the dark part of this texture as opposed to the light part, just for what I want to do. So if I was painting in a white highlight, I'd look at the white. Because I want to paint in more of a black dirt mark, I'm more concerned with looking at the black. And I'm just after an interesting line along the black part. It's interesting, but the repeating pattern will show up to it obviously with that, so we won't use that one. Keep coming back to that one. These textures are just alpha maps, black and white, or grayscale. If you want to paint any sort of dirt on an object, you'll always get a better result with an alpha map. I might stick to this one, I think. So I'm going to rotate the texture around again. The further out from the center you select, the slower the more control you have over the rotation. If you're selecting around the center, it's much harder to control it, so always select it from the end. Just going to zoom in a bit on the model. This time I'm going to angle the model up, because I want to get the dirt line running just underneath with that overhang there. Again, I'm looking at directly on the model though. We're working on a new layer. I could turn my flow and opacity up a little if I wanted to, but having a little bit more control is probably a good thing anyway, so let's bake that down. And again, we're only really looking at the black part of the texture. We're not worrying about the white section at all. I'm just going to rotate that a little. I'll bake that down by hitting the Alt key. And again, because I've got masking turned on, I'm not worrying about hitting the underside of that ledge, because the mask will stop it from painting on that part of the model. Bake it down. Again, I'm just rotating the model around slightly. Put that in there like that. Alt key to bake it down. This end piece here, we should be able to get that in one. So paint that along. And I'm just going over it because I've got the opacity turned down to darken it up. If I wanted it lighter, I wouldn't go over it so many times. So cover that line there. And bake that down. Let's zoom out a little. I'll move that texture up so we can get a bit of look. And might just put an adjustment mask on this to see what it looks like. We can remove it if we don't like it. I'll do an invert. It's got a light. Actually, I'm going to remove the adjustment mask. Just remove adjustment stack to take it back to the way it was. I'm going to pull that right back. I just wanted a hint of okay, let's throw another layer on. And this one, I'm going to rotate it around. I'm going to zoom in on the model, and I'm going to work on an angle facing away from me. Still front to the model, but with the model facing back. I'm going to paint, so I'm just going to pull that down a bit. Working on a new layer. Bake that down. Break that down. And this piece here on the end. Let's rotate that texture just a little. Okay, we'll bake that down. Just going to move that texture out of the way and throw an add on, and we'll pull it back a bit like that. I'm going to throw in a new layer. Not that one. Just going to turn that layer off for a moment. And I'm not completely happy with that dirt under here, so I'm going to see if there's anything better we could put in there. I'll try this one. Maybe just here and there this could be an interesting look. So let's angle our model, make sure we're looking at it directly on again, angle it up slightly away from us. We'll zoom in a bit. I'm going to make that texture a little larger and rotate it around just a bit. Move it in. Okay, we'll paint that down. I'm just releasing the mouse button so after I finish painting I can see which areas I want to paint in and which ones I don't. I do want to get all of that there. Okay, we'll bake that down. Now I'm just going to move along to around here. I'm not going to paint the entire texture in because I don't want to get too much repeating, so I'm just going to choose a bit of it there. Okay, let's rotate that around. I'll take a bit more of it through here, a bit of it through here. And a bit on the end, I think. So again, just rotate it around. Maybe we'll grab that bit through here. We'll grab that bit there. And maybe this bit here on the end. Bake that down. Just going to pull out a bit. Move the texture up so we can see what we're doing, and we'll work on our layer style. We don't want to darken. We could do an invert. Let's do an invert and see what that looks like. Don't think it's going to work for us, but we'll have a look. Yeah, it's a bit too subtle, I think, on an invert. So let's just remove that adjustment stack. We're on a screen at the moment, so let's just pull that back just a bit. All right. And again, for the top here, I want to just dirty it up slightly, so I'm going to throw a new layer on. Grab a new texture. That will work quite well. We'll just scale that down, and I'll zoom in a bit on the model. Again, I'm going to angle it directly on the top this time. We'll rotate that around. Just going to paint that in. And I think for this I won't, I'll just paint in bits and pieces here and there. I won't cover the entire part of the top of the model with this new texture. Rotate that around. Maybe we'll get you through here, a bit in through here, and I think I'll join it up just in through here. Bake that down. Just going to move that out of the way. I think a darken will probably work okay with that. I just want to pull it. Actually, an add might be better. Instead of making it dark, we'll make it more of a white dirt mark. Okay, let's just save our file here. And we'll export flattened, export everything flattened. We'll have a look at it in 3D Studio Max. We're in our stairs folder, lower stairs border right painted, export all patches, and we'll overwrite the file. Okay, let's jump back into 3D Studio Max. And if the texture shows up dark like that, just open up the material editor, select the texture, and reload it. Alright, and it's a little bit more natural now. It's just a little dirtier. It blends in a little bit more with the rest of our dirt and watermarks that we have happening on the rest of the model. Now, this model has the same geometry on this side, and I want to just copy and paste, but I don't want to have the exact same texture. So what I'm going to do is jump back into Mari. I'm going to, I'll leave that dirt layer on the top because that's not going to be quite so noticeable as being repeated. I will change the center one, so I think it was that one. So those lines that we had happening in the center, I'm just changing that around a little bit. I'm going to choose a different texture now. This will probably work quite well. Just make sure we're on a new layer. I'm going to zoom in on the model. Zoom in a bit more, angling it up and away from me, but looking directly front on it. Just going to paint that in here. bake that down. Just rotate that texture around just a little bit. Okay, and we'll bake that down. Just making sure I overlap the texture slightly so that we don't get any join lines happening when we're painting it along. So we have that hard edge that's happened on that on this end here. We'll just bake that down, and then when I move the texture to paint over it, I'm going to make sure that it overlaps it just a little bit through here. Just rotate that around, and that way that join line will disappear. Bake that down. And just a little bit in here. Okay, we'll bake that down. I'm just going to move the texture out of the way a little and zoom out so I can get an overall look at the model. And let's see now. Just going to jump quickly back into Max for a minute. Just want to have a look at what we want with the white. Okay. I'm also just going to throw another layer on. I'm just looking for an interesting black part of the texture that we could use for it to just a little bit here and there. I know what I want, I just have a problem finding it. No. That happened because I double clicked the texture. If you double click it, it will open it up in a separate window. That's just if you wanted to look at the texture without dragging it in. Not really. This might work. I'm just going to have to be a little careful. Let's zoom in. We're working on a new layer. Let's move that down a bit. See, no, that's not going to work really well for us. Let's try something else. This might work better. I'm going to angle the model down. I'm just going to paint a little bit here and there. I'll bake that down. I'll bake that down. Just going to zoom out so I can get a bit of overall view. Okay, zoom in here. And we'll go through here, and through here. There like that. Break that down. Alright, let me zoom out a bit. Move that texture out of the way. And pull it back just a bit. Okay. That should make it suitably different from the other one that we could, it'll be different enough not to be noticed. So export everything flattened. We're not going to overwrite our old texture though, we're going to create a new texture because we want to use both. So we had lower stair border right painted, and we're going to call this one painted 2.tga. Let's jump back into Max. I'm going to select that. Just going to pop into the top viewport here quickly. Press the Shift key and drag it over to create a copy. We're going to copy. We're going to hit the mirror key to reverse the direction. Okay. We're going to select this. We're going to go into our utilities channel and our channel info. Select the UV map channel 1 and we're just going to copy it. And that's because I can see here that our map channel hasn't copied over. So again, we'll select the new object, hit channel info, map channel 1 and paste. That just fixes our UVs. Now I want to go into our material editor. I'm going to create another material, bitmaps. We want to go into our stairs folder and we're calling it lower what did we call it? Lower stairs border right. Just going to double check what we're calling our lower stairs border right painted 2. That's the one we want. I'm just going to pipe that into the diffuse channel. It'll show shaded and show realistic. I have the object selected and I'm just going to assign the material. And I'm just going to move it into place. So I'll jump into the top viewport. I'm going to rename it lower stair border. We'll call this one left. And I want to find out what that's being called. That's lower stair border left. Okay. They're both called the same thing. We're just going to modify this one to be called old. I'm going to move it into place, just like that. Select the old one and I'm going to delete it. So now we have, we go full screen on that. Now we have our two borders here using the same geometry but different textures so that they look a bit more unique. I may pull back on that dark dirt mark there. I think that's a little heavy, so I'm just going to jump back into Mari quickly. Working on that dirt layer. I'm just going to pull it back a little bit and re-export the texture. Export flattened, export everything flattened. It should remember our texture name, painted 2, and we're going to overwrite it. I'm just going to save this project here. Now, if we really wanted to go back to the first texture, we just have to hide these layers and unhide the ones that we've hidden, and we could work on our original texture again if we wanted to make any changes there. Again, we're going to go in, select the texture, and reload it. It'll bring it back. Let's just lighten up those dirt marks along the bottom there. I thought they were just a bit too heavy before, and that looks better. Okay. Now I want to do a little bit of work on the stairs. I'm feeling that they still look a little too uniform, a little too, not clean, but yeah, uniform. The texture's too uniform, so I'm just going to double check what we're calling that texture. I know it was one of the first ones we worked on a few weeks ago. It's this one here. Sorry, that's the front of the step. It's this one here, the top of the step. And it's steps3_diff. So I'm going to, I know we have that project already saved in Mari, but what I'm going to do is select the stairs. Let me just check my channels here. Yeah, we should be fine. I'm going to export selected. I'm going to save it to our stairs folder. We're going to save it as an OBJ. I'm just going to call this one stairs_rework. I'll save that. We're saving it as an OBJ. Default values is fine. Okay. Another reason to resave the model instead of working on the original one that we had in Mari is we made some, yesterday or the day before, we made some changes to the underlying mesh. We selected a few verts and moved them around just to add a bit of wear and tear on a few of the stairs, which will have slightly changed the UV, so it's and it's obviously changed the model, so it's always better to work with the current model instead of working with the one that we had saved. Okay, let's just save that. We'll create a new project in Mari.